The Force Unleashed was released in 2008 and quickly became a fan favorite. The game takes place primarily between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. The protagonist is Galen Marek, codenamed Starkiller. He was taken as a child when Darth Vader killed his father, and he felt the young Marek's incredible force potential. For 17 years, Vader shaped Starkiller into a powerful weapon steeped in the dark side. When Vader deemed Starkiller ready, he's tasked with hunting down and killing 3 rogue Jedi, Rom Koda, Kazdan Paratus, and Shaak Ti. Starkiller succeeds. Vader wasn't entirely sure that he would. When Master and Apprentice reunite, Starkiller believes it's time for the two to overthrow Palpatine and take control of the galaxy, also realizing the Sith's rule of 2. Palpatine, always one step ahead, knew that Vader had taken an acolyte and calls him out on his betrayal. Vader turns on Starkiller, nearly killing him. He revives and slightly rebuilds his apprentice, and explains to him that Palpatine had to believe that Starkiller was dead and that Vader was still loyal so that he would drop his guard, as much as Palpatine ever does. Starkiller reluctantly agrees to keep serving Vader. Vader has a new plan to take down Palpatine. He now tasks Starkiller with reinforcing the growing rebellion against the Empire, giving Palpatine something larger to focus on. This has Starkiller retracing much of his journey. He reconnects with Rom Koda, who in time would serve as a new master and father figure as Starkiller rethinks everything that he's been taught. He would also rub shoulders with familiar, influential figures such as Bail Organa, who he rescues, and Mon Mothma. He gathers these two along with Garm Bel Iblis to form the Alliance to restore the Republic. This new mission turns out to be yet another betrayal of Darth Vader. Starkiller didn't gather rebel leaders to distract Palpatine. He gathered them so that the Empire could take them down that much easier. The rebel leaders are taken into custody, and Starkiller is once again left for dead by his master. To try and make things right, Starkiller infiltrates the still under construction first Death Star. He defeats Vader in combat and sacrifices himself to save his new friends from Palpatine's wrath. These events are the light side ending of the game. Players can also choose to go down the dark path, though the light is considered to be the true ending. In the dark side ending, Starkiller kills Vader and is brutally maimed by Palpatine. Palpatine then rebuilds him to be more machine than man. Sound familiar? He's christened Lord Starkiller and takes Vader's place at Palpatine's side. Expanded content inserts Starkiller into familiar scenes from the original trilogy. On Tatooine, he kills Obi-Wan Kenobi. On Hoth, he turns Luke Skywalker to the dark side and takes him as an acolyte. The Force Unleashed 2 follows the continuity of the light side ending of the first game. This game centers on a clone of Starkiller. He's haunted by memories of the real Galen Marek. He breaks free from Darth Vader's grasp in search of identity and his love interest, Juno Eclipse. Starkiller reunites with Koda, and a new mission is underway. The two plot to destroy the latest cloning endeavors on Kamino. There are countless Starkiller clones driven insane as cloning a Force-sensitive being has been problematic in virtually every Star Wars timeline that I can think of. There is another confrontation with Vader. As with the first game, the player is able to choose the light side or the dark side ending. Also like the first game, the light side ending is considered to be the true one, but there is a little bit of a conflict in that we'll get to in just a minute. That ending sees Starkiller defeat Vader, but captures him and turns him over to the Rebel Alliance rather than killing him. The ultimate fate of Starkiller is left open as a third installment was planned to tie up his story, but was never actually developed. The dark side ending for the second game is continued with more content as was the first. A Starkiller clone stays in service to Darth Vader. With the free-thinking Starkiller dead, Juno Eclipse shares the same fate. The events of Endor are now reimagined with a version of Starkiller that kills some of our most familiar Rebel heroes. It also implies that Palpatine is going to move against Vader and Starkiller, aware of the continued betrayal. If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. The core games and their light side endings live in Legends, but even in that, they are more a what-if scenario than something that sticks with the Legends continuity, for a lack of a better term. The expanded universe did a pretty good job keeping everything linear, but there are conflicts. The first game of the series came out to mixed reviews, but there were more positive than negative. The story and concepts of the game were loved, but there were some issues with gameplay and wonky technical issues that held it back from being great. Fans loved the idea of Vader having a secret apprentice. It was also widely said that the game felt like Star Wars. Having just replayed the game for the first time in years, the inspiration behind this video and the one I did on Starkiller, it's hard to quantify, but it does feel very much like Star Wars, even with its dated controls and graphics. It helps that Sam Witwer, who is a legit Star Wars fan, who has done amazing work across the franchise, delivers such a compelling performance as Starkiller, even in the dated motion capture. The downsides come when enough time is spent with the game. The combat system is basic and repetitive. It feels like the game is at a slight delay with the player's inputs. It's not ultra responsive. Comparing it to other games of the era and genre like God of War and Devil May Cry, it falls a little short. The level design was also criticized for being very linear and repetitive. IGN, GameSpot, and Metacritic all had the game ranked somewhere in the mid-70s percentage-wise. A fair assessment. My personal ranking does have it a bit higher. I'd boost it by about 10%, as the feel of it being Star Wars carries a lot more weight for me than any kind of basic controls or copy-paste scenery. The second installment didn't receive as much love. The mixed reviews this time were weighted more to the negative than the positive. The overall critical assessment was that the game was rushed, too short, and boiled down to a cash grab. The campaign could be fully completed in under 5 hours if you just steamrolled it and didn't look around. Many assets were recycled without any improvements. Boss fights were also more or less completely recycled. Aside from gameplay and more technical aspects, critics hated the story, and it even disappointed many fans. The clone angle was a bit cheap and nothing was resolved. No characters had an arc, not even Starkiller, and nothing was wrapped up given the assumed third installment. The positives were in the look. For its time, it stood out graphically. The force powers and combat system were improved, more options and snappier responses. The biggest constant in praise was, once again, Sam Witwer's excellent performance. The same critical outlets discussed previously had all dropped by 10 to 20% in their reviews. My own review wouldn't drop that much, but having jumped back into it and I didn't even finish it before writing this video, it did feel like more of the same. It did not feel like I was playing a new game or a follow-up. The first game was a big hit. It sold over 7 million copies. When the sequel came out, it sold well initially, given the brand recognition, but it fell flat soon after that. It's said to be one of the nails in the coffin for LucasArts' internal development. I couldn't find a direct source, so take this next bit with a grain of salt. Sam Witwer supposedly said that The Force Unleashed 2 wasn't actually finished. There was more that was written, but the game was truncated to meet the rushed release date. Again, take this next bit with a grain of salt, as has been pieced together by hearsay and online rumors over the years. The Force Unleashed 3 was supposedly going to follow the dark side ending of the second game, even though I just stated that it was the light side ending that was the true one. Maybe it was only deemed the true one after the rushed development and cancellation of the third game were announced. The third game would have undone the only attempt at a character arc that Starkiller had in the second. It was going to ditch the ambiguity on clone or original Galen Marek and just say that he was the original. Another manipulation by Vader, and looking back at it now after all the shows and movies and character deaths that didn't happen, it seems like lightsabers are not fatal in the franchise anymore. Starkiller and Coda would go on to run from Vader, knowing that he would stop at nothing to retrieve them. Imperial Special Ops would hunt the pair down along with dark-side-infected clones and bounty hunters. At a point, Starkiller and Vader would have had to put their own issues aside and team up to take on Palpatine's own Force-sensitive clone army. I don't really need more clone armies in the franchise, but given what The Force Unleashed is, it would have been really cool to see Vader and Starkiller working together against Palpatine. Finally, something Starkiller thought he was going to get countless times. Starkiller's arc in this one would be that he learns he can't overcome the dark side by continual conflict. He would sacrifice himself in service of the rebellion and actually die this time. The gameplay was to evolve in the third installment as well. A semi-open world structure rather than the narrow maps of the first two would have been a welcome change. There would be side objectives throughout the game to extend the play and add more variety. The force powers would be further polished and have more interaction with the environments. It's also said there were to be big improvements to the melee fighting, making it more like the Batman Arkham games rather than the button-mashing experience from the first two. The enemy AI was also supposed to get big upgrades so that enemies would adapt to the player's behavior rather than run as drones. I came across a number of factors as to why this game was supposedly never made. The same caveat on the credibility of this information applies as I did for the last two things. LucasArts was having internal problems at the time. The poor performance of The Force Unleashed 2 did not help. George Lucas had a lot of interest in the infamous game Star Wars 1313 at the time and wanted efforts focused on that and less so on Force-heavy stories. I'm getting to the point in every video I make where I really hate crediting things to George Lucas because so many people just put words in this poor guy's mouth as a way of making what they're saying seem more credible. That is something that I read. I hope I am not misinterpreting, misquoting, or speaking for him. When Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012, they cleaned house at LucasArts. Some of these details are from a paraphrased article from 2013 where Sam Witwer sat down with IGN. Hayden Blackman, the director of the first two games, is credited with delivering a lot of this information around 2010 in developer interviews. Anonymous developers from LucasArts said that pre-planning documents existed, but the game never actually got into production. I have great memories of this franchise, flaws and all. What are your experiences with these games? When's the last time that you revisited them? Let me know in the comments and check out this video next for more on Starkiller.